Hello everyone. Today we are going to do 10.13 trigonometric values given another. So we are going to find out the trigonometric values when there's one trigonometry value. Before we do our lesson, let's start with this, how to simplify, because we need to know how to simplify the square root, right? Do you remember how to simplify the square root? Square root of 192? Yeah, so we need to find out the highest perfect square as a factor for this 192, right? So if you can find in your brain, so it's good. So I know the 81 times 2. 81 is a perfect square, and times 2 is 192. Then it'll be much easier. But if you cannot find out 81 immediately, then what should you do? You do the prime factorization of 192, right? So it's even number 2 times, what is it? Oh, 81. You get it. So you don't need to go further after 81. 81 is 9 times 9, but you don't need to do it. Why? Because 81 is already, you know, the perfect square, then you can stop there, okay? So let's see. So 192 is 81 times 2, which is 81 is what? Highest perfect square. Then now you write down like this. Square root of 192 is same with the square root of 81 times 2 over 6. And then square root of 81, this is what? Comes out as what? Square root of 81 is equal to 9, right? So 9 comes out. So 9 comes out as a square root of 2. So you can separate the two square root, two radicals for multiplication. For division also same, right? You can separate into the two division, two radicals. So radical 81 times radical 2. But radical 81 is what? 9, right? And 9 and 6, you can simplify 9 and 6. So you can cancel and it becomes 3 over 2. So 3 radical 2 over 2. Can we, let's see, can you see here? Nope. If you see here 3 and 2, you cannot cancel, but some people try to cancel these 2 and bottom 2. Can you do it? No, right? Definitely no. Radical 2 and denominator 2 is not common. You cannot cancel this. Radical 2 is like a 1.4 something. You can never cancel with these two. Please be careful. All right. Then let's go to our original lesson. So let's say you have sine the angle is equal to radical 17 over 5. Which quadrant? Quadrant 2. Then we are supposed to find out cosine and tangent. If you know that, if you know the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? So twice. So if you know the sine is the ratio of opposite over hypotenuse, then in the quadrant 2, what do? Your point is here. We make a right triangle by drawing the vertical line, right, to the x-axis. Can we make a right triangle this way? Horizontal line? No. In trigonometry, we always draw what? Vertical line. So triangle will be like this, not this one. The vertical line to the x-axis. So now we know that this is hypotenuse. What is hypotenuse? It's 5 is hypotenuse. And then radical 17 goes where? Here, right? Opposite of the angle, because this is opposite, OH. OH. So O opposite of the angle is here, square root of 17, you put it here. And then you don't know X value then, right? You don't know the X coordinate. X will be what? Positive or negative? X is negative. In the second quadrant, X is negative, Y is positive. Then how do you find? You need to find the X value, right? What do you do? Yeah, Pythagorean Theorem. So x squared plus radical 17 squared is equal to what? 5 squared. You set up the Pythagorean theorem, right? What is 5 squared? 25. Radical 17 squared is 17 square and square root cancel, right? And then what do you do? Move 17 here. What do you get? 25 minus 17 is x squared. So that will be 8. X squared is 8. Here we need to be careful. So when you get x from x squared, you do the square root both sides. And then you know that plus minus 2 solutions from x squared. So x will be square root 8, but plus minus, right? So which one is correct? Plus or minus? You need to determine sign, right? After this. So what is the sign of x? You need to go to the quadrant. In quadrant 2, remember, x is what? In quadrant 2, x is negative. But y is positive, x is negative. So we take negative, not the positive. So x is negative square root 8. But can you simplify square root 8? We just did in the do now, right? So square root 8 is equal to what? Like this. Perfect square, 4 times 2, right? So square root of 4, square root of 2. Square root of 4 is equal to, yes. So this one, x will be negative 2 times radical 2, which is same with the radical 8. But when you simplify, it will be like this. So you find out now x value, adjacent. X is adjacent, negative 2 times radical 2. And opposite, radical 17. Hypotenuse 5. So you, because you know all the 3 sides in the right triangle, you can find out now sine, cosine, tangent, all right? So what is cosine? Ka. So ka. Cosine angle is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So adjacent is x. Is it positive or negative? Negative. Negative 2 square root 2 over 5. Yes, right? Now, tangent. OR, TOR. So opposite over adjacent. What is opposite? Yes, square root of 17 over negative 2 square root 2. Like this, right? So here we learned that if you have a square root in the denominator, we need to rationalize. How do you remove this radical? You can multiply radical 2 here, right? You multiply same radical, but you need to multiply to the numerator and denominator together. Because numerator, denominator, if you multiply together means radical 2 over radical 2. This is like what? 1, right? You are multiplying 1. You don't change the value, but you can change the format. You don't, without changing the value, you can change the format. So no more, the denominator cannot be the radical. So you do this, radical 2, radical 2. You can cancel, then the same, right? So you don't change the value like this. But now, what happens is, radical 2 times radical 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So denominator will be 4. Negative, you can go and numerator. Radical 17 times radical 2 is, when you have two radical multiply, you can put in the one radical. So 17 times 2 is 34. Yes. Everybody get it? So either one, sine, cosine, or tangent, if you know any value, you can just fill the any two sides here, and you can find out the unknown variable by using Pythagorean theorem, right? If you find it, you can find out other trigonometry values. But just be familiar with how to simplify the radicals. Okay. So like this. So katoa. But now we learned before cosecant is 1 over sine, reciprocal of sine, right? Cosecant is a reciprocal of sine. Secant is a reciprocal of cosine. So 1 over cosine. So cosecant is, sine is OH, the cosecant is H over O. Okay, so, but opposite, flip it. Secant is 1 over cosine. So if you know the cosine, you can just flip it for the secant. If you know the tangent, you can find the cotangent by flip it, right? So OR become RO, all right? So when you find out the value for cosecant, the secant, cotangent, don't worry about with this. What should you do? You find out sine, cosine, tangent. If you know sine, cosine, tangent, what am I? Okay. So if you know the sine, cosine, tangent, then you can find just by flipping these values, fractions, you can find out cosecant, secant, cotangent. So when you have this, don't worry, just go to the easy one first, sine, cosine, tangent. Then you can just flip, you can get the cosecant from sine, you can get the secant from cosine, you can get the cotangent from tangent, all right? So now, can you find out secant when you know the sine and you know you are in the quadrant 2? So this person, Sarah did like this. There is some error. Can you find out errors? But Sarah didn't show the coordinate plane and right triangle, but can you draw it first? Yes, you better draw the coordinate plane here and draw a right triangle as we did. It's the second quadrant here, right? Draw it. You better draw it, then it'll be much easier and then write down. Okay. Then x is what here. So you don't know the x, right? But you know the opposite, the vertical y values, and this is hypotenuse. Okay. So can you find out what is wrong? Think about it. And then correct your answer here. So let's do it together. Is this correct? Yeah, you set up the Pythagorean theorem. You know the opposite of hypotenuse. So hypotenuse alone, right? Square here, and 4 square plus opposite is a y value, and you don't know the x value, right? So x squared, not the y square, x squared. That's correct. And if you square it, 34 square root cancel, become 34. 4 squared, 16. Correct. X squared is 18. Correct. And then you do the square root of both sides. But you change the side is okay, right? It's not wrong. But x equal to square root of 18. And square root of 18, Sarah skipped one step. Square root of 18 can be what? Square root of 9 times square root of 2. And square root of 9 is 3. Well, this is correct. Square root of 2. Then, secant, you should know the cosine, right? Cosine is what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So 3 square root of 2 over hypotenuse square root of 34. But you should flip it for the secant, right? So square root of 34 over 3 square root of 2. Super correct, right? And then this and this, can you simplify? Yes, square root of 34 divided square root of 2. If you have both of them square root, you can simplify each other. So 34 divided by 2 is 17, right? So square root of 17 is here, and the square root of 2 is gone. So 1 left. Square root of 1 is 1. So 1 times 3 is 3. So what is wrong? No error? There is an error. Yeah. X is not positive here, right? When you get the x from x squared, what did I say? It's a plus minus. And in the second quadrant, x is negative. So your answer will be like this, right? X is supposed to be negative square root of 18 minus 3 square root of 2. And then before you do the secant, you better write down in somewhere cosine first. Cosine is ca adjacent this over square root of 34. But secant is flip it. So square root of 34 go up, 3 square root of 2 go down. Then simplify as we did. And you are done. So everybody, you understand? Good. So when you find out other cosine values, you need to know first draw the right triangle properly in that quadrant, right? In quadrant 3, what do you know? X is negative, Y also negative, right? In quadrant 3. And set up the Pythagorean theorem, solve the missing side, and find the trigonometric value. And simplify the radical in the simplest form. That way, you will solve the problems. So if you understand, now look at the packet. If you go, how many questions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 questions. After that, you have an exit ticket here. So can you do it and then email it to me? All right.